elsewhere, it's probably evening sometime. So good to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're all doing well. Um, I'll give it just maybe a couple of minutes for people to slowly join in. But how is everybody's weekend? How are you guys doing so far? Are you guys having a good one or is it a bit rough? For me, what is it? For me, hey Graham, how are you from Australia? Hope you're doing well. It's okay. Good, good, good. And everyone else is okay? Um, well, my reason for wanting to do this live stream, it's raining in Atlanta. We had some rain last week, but after the rain, it's gotten pretty cold. We are good, good, good. Things are okay. It got pretty cold. Not colder than some places. We still don't have too much snow, if any, really. But we actually dropped below 0 or 32 degrees, depending upon who you are. Yeah, Australia, it's summertime down there, down under. Are you guys throwing another shrimp on the bobby? Sorry about that. All right. So yeah, today we'll get started. So today's live stream is mainly to go over bands that I would like to interview for this coming year. Um, a little background, just so that you guys have some bronze got it. So you guys have some idea of how this kind of all started, how it progressed, and where it hopefully will lead to, where it may lead to. I'm not really sure. Um, but it'll be really great to just hear what you guys also have to say. I'm interested in maybe what it is that you guys. Yushi-san. Hey everybody. If you guys don't know, BLP, Onishi Yushi-san, that is the head of Blacklisted Records, and he has been helping me greatly. And Blacklisted is where Hades is, Hala, uh, Pinkish Crown, Nekomeshi 222, Unsalute, any number of bands that are just kind of, some of you guys have heard of, Ryan has talked about them, Ryan Muir. I've talked about them, I've interviewed them. So yes, just if you guys ever see BLP, that's what Blacklisted. Okay, all right. Now, it's really interesting because if you guys don't know, if you haven't heard the story, most of you guys know that I was very much a Bandmate fan. That's kind of how I kind of gained some notoriety. A lot of my notoriety came from the fact that I was this massive, massive, no problem at all, Onishi-san. A lot of massive, a massive Bandmate fan, and I was just putting out so much material. Oh, is, not was, is. I was putting out a lot of just bandmate material, graphics, a lot of fan stuff that I could do online, whatever it was that I could do to promote Bandmade. Um, Now, for questions, please save that for later. Sorry, for questions, if you can wait till later so I can get through this stuff. And then questions will come later on, just so that I don't kind of start going everywhere haphazardly. Okay. And I actually purposely, to be honest, I purposely made a point of it to focus just on Bandmade. And one of the reasons why was just financially, I couldn't afford any other band when I was all in with Bandmade. And so I would listen to other music, I would listen to other bands, but I never kind of opened my heart up. I don't know if that even makes sense, but it was kind of like I was, like in a really uh, deep relationship with Bandmade. And then in 2022, this is November, where SJ and I decided to start MNN. And this was primarily to focus just on Bandmade. And then things kind of changed come 2023 at the beginning, where I attended a couple of shows outside of Bandmade. And for better or for worse, it just ripped open any barrier, any block, any boundary. This guy, SJ Kicks. No, SJ. Sorry, the other X that are coming up are I can't really say right now. So yeah, come 2023, I attended a show for Bright Ear, and I thought, man, this is amazing. It was a small show of about 35 fans. I've talked about this before, but it was like 35 fans. There was fried food, there was sake, there was pizza, there were like um, members, there were fans going up on stage playing with the bands. I mean, oh, was it only 30? So it was a crazy, very interesting, unique event. And okay, I'll trust you. I'll definitely trust you. So it was something I had never experienced, and I think a lot of people, even if they attend a lot of live shows, never experienced. Um, so yeah, that's um, that's one of the shows, and I attended another show with Little Lilith, Risky Melody, and a band called Maze, Alt Idol, and that also was really kind of eye-opening, and a lot of it was really after the show, where I could see these bands. Um, there's a time after the live show called Buppan, and Buppan is when you're selling the merch. So when the show is done, the bands will go to their respective tables. They have their CDs, their wristbands, their keychains, their T-shirts, you name it, whatever merch that they have, and they're selling. And they're really just trying to get some money at the end of the show. We're glad you came. We're glad you paid for the ticket. We're glad you paid for the cover drink, but we would like to make some money off of you. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that because they're bands and they have a livelihood. And it really got me thinking, it'd be cool if we could somehow get some of these bands more known because I hadn't known. I mean, if you take out 2023, I didn't know probably 95% of the bands that I went to go see live. And I discovered them through various means, whether it was YouTube, whether it was going to just a show where one band was there and there were like 9 other bands playing that day. Just hearing about it from various places, Twitter, whatever, just kind of keeping my eyes and ears open. And so Esther and I talked about that. We're like, okay, well, let's try to get some of these bands that we really love, and that really kind of became the start of trying to interview bands, trying to introduce bands to you guys out there, not just so that you guys would discover new music, which of course we want to do, but it was also a chance for these bands to become more known. And of course that goes hand in hand, right? That goes hand in hand. But it was just an opportunity for everyone to win, right? You guys get some new, awesome, great music, and then from the band's perspective, they get new fans, and you guys hopefully not only support them by saying we love you, but also buying merch, buying like physical CDs, T-shirts, and whatever other material that they have. So that's kind of how it all really started. And come 2023, we had some idea of maybe certain bands that we thought about wanting to interview, and it that was just kind of rummaging through my head, I think Essie's head, and I think we had like Sega in mind. I know I had thought about Whiskey Dust, and then as most of you should know by now, I found Hades, and Hades was really the start of everything with 2023. So before I go into the bands that I would love to interview in 2024 for this year, I want to do really quick run through of the bands that I got to interview last year. Um, and the first was, of course, Hades. And yeah, it makes sense getting conferences on bands and I've interviewed them. Yeah, so Hades was a band that I just randomly discovered, on YouTube. And thankfully, and this is why I think I'm eternally grateful, is that I found Hades and also Blacklisted Records and Onishi-san, is that they're very open to just like if the artist wants to do something, sure, why not? And that helps a lot versus having to go through a lot of channels to get an interview or to gain access to the artists, besides just watching them live. And so I think a band like Hades, since they're so great in terms of just being open and being so fun and being just so cool and relaxed about everything. Hey, what's up, David? It really gave me an opportunity, and the confidence to actually want to do more and be more kind of active and proactive about that. So Hades is a band I am eternally grateful for, and if you guys don't know by now, uh, good friends. Are they good friends? Are we good friends? Well, they say nakama, which is like, I guess, family. I don't know how to put it, but yes. So I'm very we can do to really, yeah, other things that we can do to, just promote more of these bands and, let people know what's happening in their lives and in their activities this year. So it was Hades, and then a very cool thing is that I got to interview Sara individually with her solo band. And for those of you who have seen the interviews of both Hades, whether it's my interview or it's Ryan Mears' interview with them, you know that Sara is just, she's a party in one. I mean, absolutely just full on. You cannot like push her down. What's up, Ryan? Hey, I just mentioned you. So very, very active, very, very cool girl. And it was cool to see her doing her own thing. And to now, one of the things I discovered is that, which kind of makes sense, is that when you have a band of 5 versus 4 versus 3 versus 2 versus 1, I mean, you get to go a lot deeper with that artist. And the cool thing was that with Sada having it just be her, I got to ask more questions, more specifically and directed towards her. So that was really nice. So, yes, Sada, and then another blacklisted band is. Do you guys know who this is? So this is well, it used to be the She-Glapes, but now it's just She-Glapes. They dropped the. And She-Glapes was recommended by Onishi-san. And so I checked them out and I thought, man, this band is hella entertaining. And composition-wise, there's not a band quite like She-Glapes in terms of there's like a really classical quality to their composition, and they do a lot of genre melding, but it's not the type of genres that you would quite expect. It's hard to explain, but they do some really unique stuff. So yeah, I kind of, met them, did a really short little talk with them, fell in love with them, and I thought they were an amazing band. And if you see them live, it's impossible not to smile and have a lot of joy and have a good time. So I got to interview them. That was really nice. Right after, I actually interviewed Whiskey Dust. And Whiskey Dust is a band that is dear to my heart for a couple of reasons. The first is that the guitarist, if you guys don't know, her name is Erica Van Halen. She did name herself. I don't think she's actually related to Eddie. But the reason why she called herself Erica Van Halen is because, I mean, she is really like a chip off the old Frankenblock. If you've heard her play and if you see her joy, I mean, you can see just how much of an influence that Eddie Van Halen had. And just yesterday, is it your time or is it tonight? I'm not sure. Was Eddie Van Halen's birthday, and so she actually, Erica, took a photo and had the Frankenstrat along with a little cake and said "Happy Birthday, Eddie." So really sweet, really cool, and um, they were the first Zoom band, the first band that I interviewed by Zoom. So a little bit nervous. I prefer talking like face to face, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I haven't asked bands to interview unless I can see them in person, talk to them in person. Um, and a part of the reason why is that I think I can get the best out of the bands that way, and I can get the best out of myself that way, in that sort of being in the same physical space and that type of interaction. Um, but it was still a very good time. I was kind of nervous, and it's really weird. I think for some of you also, because you've only seen me through a screen, and this sounds really strange to say it this way, but because you've only seen me through a screen, for some people, I'm sort of the semi quasi celebrity, uh, which I definitely don't feel that way about. Questions for later, so I can kind of get through this stuff first. Sorry. Um, and that's how I felt with Whiskey Dust. Even though I was cool with interviewing all these other bands in person, when I interviewed Whiskey Dust, they felt a bit more celebrity-ish. And another cool connection between Whiskey Dust and Hades is that Yuri, the bassist for Hades, used to play for Whiskey Dust. But I enjoyed that a lot. Then I do not actually have a CD because there is no CD. It's only on streaming. Is Leopard Death, and Leopard Death, a band that hails from Sapporo, Hokkaido. They were a band that was introduced to me by Russ Henry, and Russ Henry of the Foxhole. And for those of you guys who don't know about the Foxhole, oh no, the lights went out. But the Foxhole is that um, they, how do you say it? It closed. It stopped. So their original channel has stopped, and they are now doing Twitch, live Twitch to go over different bands. So I think that information you guys can check out. You can go to the Foxhole on Twitter and see whatever information they have. I think it's usually Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday morning my time. So it's Tuesday night for those who are in the States. The exact time, I'm not sure. Um, but Leopard, this was really cool. And then the last two very quickly, and I'll go into 2024. Doll Parts. So Doll Parts was a band that I had been introduced to. I think I first heard from Doc Loco, Philippe. Um, and he had mentioned them, and I checked them out, and this was a cool band because they do go, uh, they're very different from a lot of other Japanese bands that a lot of you guys maybe know, is that Doll Parts goes into more the grunge era, the post-grunge era. They're more power pop, pop rock. And I know these days, I think heavier is in, but this is a cool throwback. And Arisa, the lead singer, she's a very sensual front woman, um, but she's really cool and she's really funny. And when I got a chance to interview her, and people had asked me to, that was really cool, is because people had reached out to me to try to get in touch with her, and they had said that she would love to interview, and I thought that's cool that people are actually willing to reach out to me now. That was kind of a new thing. Um, Yes, they have been collaborating with Sega, which is the last band that I got to interview last year. So one of the first bands that I had wanted to interview, and the last band that I interviewed last year. So it was kind of strange. So those are the seven bands. Yeah, Nostalgia is amazing. Um, all their albums are amazing for Sega. But these were the bands that I got to interview, and each of them had their own hurdles. Each of them had their own difficulties, but a lot of it was just the excitement and the joy of getting to interview bands that I loved, that I was excited by, and that I thought, oh, this is good music. that people need to hear about. These are bands that people need to know about. And I was very fortunate to be able to do that. And that was 2023. I also did certain short talks, and for the short talks, um, they were more not like really official interviews, but just little snippets. I just grabbed bands like really quickly after their show and said, "Do you mind?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure, that's okay." And it's okay for some bands, but for other bands that didn't quite work out, and I'll go into that also later. So for the short talks, I got to do a short talk with Majestina Saga. And Majestina Saga, they are of the legacy of VK bands. With this VK bands, um, it's a bit more in the fantasy area, a little bit more gothic. But I enjoyed their live. I had seen them, I think, 3 or 4 times. So it was really cool to have that opportunity to just do a quick talk with them. I may end up doing a full-on interview with them this year. We'll have to see. They are an Osaka band, and so the opportunity is there. However, I will hopefully probably be moving to Tokyo soon, and that's still sort of what I'm hoping for. I got to do a quick talk with Pinkish Crown, which is also, again, under Blacklisted. But with Pinkish Crown, they're a really cool and exciting band because if you guys don't know, Erica from Fate Gear is also a member of Pinkish Crown. And if you've ever seen Erica live, I mean, she turns into a propeller. She is she is wild on stage, absolutely wild on stage, and I can say that I had the honor of receiving her sweat, like all over while I was doing photography. I was doing photos for them. I did a short talk with them, and then I did a very short talk with Asterism after their free live show in Osaka. They had a couple of them early October, so I got to go to that, and they were okay with doing a quick little hello and whatnot. And if you actually go to MNN, I also recorded their entire set. It was only about, I think, 15-20 minutes, but it's worth checking out. And Haruka is phenomenal. I think she's one of the most phenomenal guitarists out there, especially for her age and her generation. Um, and then the last band I did a short talk with, and it's not out yet, is a band called Electric Mama. And Electric Mama is a band that I think a lot of people might not be quite into because they're a lot more sort of dance, electronic. Um, there's more of a atmospheric vibe, and they do infuse rock, and there's some guitar licks and some melodies in there that's amazing. But they're a very passionate band. It's just a two-piece, it's a duo. But I saw them once along with the She-Glapes, and I thought they were amazing. So my talk with them will be coming out, but not quite yet. Maybe within the next couple of weeks. Okay. Now, this is sort of what we're here for, I suppose, is bands for 2024. And some of you probably already know or have an idea which bands I would like to interview. Oh, yeah, The Wall is an amazing song. Planet Nine is amazing. They have a lot of good stuff. If you're into that kind of music, it's amazing stuff. So for bands that I would like to interview this year, they're actually carryovers from last year. There are bands that I had inquired about, that I had emailed to or asked, but whether it was schedule conflict or it was just no replies, so I guess I'll have to keep at it. These are bands that I have wanted to interview and it just didn't work out. And then I'll go into some of the other bands that I just haven't had an opportunity to talk to at all. So, okay, let's go into these. Now, one of the bands that I would love to interview and get down with, and thanks to Ryan Mears' introduction, is Toranoko Rami. It's a four-piece. There's a very indie rock quality to them. There's ska, um, there's funk, there's just classic quality. But man, their lives are something to behold. The lead singer is just phenomenal. Um, yeah, Mama Yanagi, she's the blonde in the picture. Um, they're a band that I had asked if I could interview a couple of times, but well, actually, yeah, due to again just scheduling, I got to see them, but they didn't quite have enough time to kind of just sit or just kind of stand and talk with me. So hopefully this year there'll be an opportunity for that. I think they are an amazing band. They seem okay with just sort of not necessarily getting bigger. Um, what I really like about Toranoko Rami is that they have this sort of philosophy as a band, artistically and just musically and just as a group. They're very tight knit. So, but I would love to interview them. So Toranoko Rami is one of them. Another sort of band, which I just mentioned, which I didn't get to do like an actual official interview with, is hey Russ. I did mention you about your Twitch, and I believe it's Tuesday nights your time. But yeah, Asterism is a band that I would love to interview in person and talk to. I've seen them 3 times so far. And the last time that I saw Asterism was a show in December that I also saw Brideyear with. And both bands killed it. But Haruka that night, um, yeah, Haruka is something really, really special. And for me in particular, for guitarists, it's not just what people play, but how they play it. And there was just a moment during the show with Haruka when she was playing. It just, there's something about seeing people who are so passionate, who are so passionate and lost in the moment, and there's like nothing else around them. And that's really something that I felt and I've seen in videos, and I would love to experience more of this coming year. But you know, they are on Sony and they are getting bigger. But yeah, I would love to sit down and just talk with them. I think they're a great band, a great three-piece. Oh, the last time I also got um, Mio's Drumstick, which is really nice. So yeah, they're a band that I would love to interview and just sit down with and get to know. They're such a young band. They've been playing for what, 7 years now? Yeah, 7 years, going on 8 years. Because Haruka started when she was like 14, like going out on stage, but phenomenal. So hopefully that can happen. We'll see. We'll see. Another carryover, and this is a bigger band, but I have to because I've loved this band for a while. Besides Bandmade, what I remember in 2018 after discovering Bandmade, and you know, World Domination and all of that, is I really fell in love with Brideyear and with Ignite. Um, so this is Brideyear. This is their live from London, Aegis of London live. And as I mentioned, I did see them at the beginning of 2023. And, you know, these girls have been around for 12 years doing the circuit in Japan. But I love the band. I love their musicality. I love their compositions. I love their instrumentalists. I think that Kimi is something special. Um, and yeah, I love listening to her sing. Right before the Yokohama Arena show for Bandmade last year, I went to go see Brideyear, I think the night before. And it was just so good. It was just so good. And they played a couple of tracks that I never thought I would hear live. But it was Mirror And gosh, what was the other song? What was the other song? Okay, anyway, but yeah. So I really, really, uh, yeah, sure. I will do that. Yoshi, I will do that. I'll make a list of songs to check out, and you guys can do that. But really, I've always liked Bright Deer, and I think more so, when I opened myself up to other bands, um, Bright Ear definitely just kind of came rushing in, especially with that show that Richard Hogan and I saw that night. Really exciting, really fun, and really, I don't know, there's a very, very cool quality. Even when I first saw them live, I just kind of had it in my head. They give me this feeling of like they're like the coolest girls on campus. There's like those cool girls, but they're not trying to be cool, they just are. And oh, sure, 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 sure. I'll show the photo. If you haven't seen it yet, I've thrown this up a lot because I love it so much, and it was my profile picture. Um, but this is, I believe it was January 6th or 5th, at the Cat's Hole. And yeah, there's just something very cool about them, really fun about them. Um, they really do. They have so much musicality. With the combination of the twin guitars doing like harmonies with Kimi as vocalist, and then you also have Ayumi, who is really actually also a very good vocalist, and guitarist. And then you have Natsumi on drums, and then you have Haru with the death voice. I mean, so much good stuff. So much good stuff. They actually have quite a few albums out. But yeah, if you have Spotify or just YouTube, just check out, see what there is. Some stuff I think you'll like more than others, but I think there's bound to be something that you really love. At least for me. I mean, Bright Ear is a band that I just really enjoy a lot, and it would be such an honor to sit down and talk with them. Um, yeah, and just see how the journey's been. It's a 12-year journey, that they've been on. Um, and that's wild. Bandmade just celebrated their 10th year anniversary, and they're moving on, and that was a bit more of quite an incline. But yeah, with Brighter just having performed all those years and having gone through a lot of loss, a lot of different members, came and went, and just interested to see, like, because I feel they're as strong as they've ever been. Um, and musically some really good stuff. So yeah, I'm excited, to see more of them live. But I'm hoping at some point I can get to sit down and interview them and talk to them, just to kind of get to know them. That'd be really cool. Okay, next, another band. This is another sort of kind of bled over from last year. Is Let It Out, Lelia, or Lelia. Let It Out. They have another album called Hybrid L, which is darker, it's heavier, it's more progressive. But this album, it's got more of a classic rock feel, but still just as good to me. I saw them live at a show, so it was really cool. In May of last year, I saw a show that had doll parts, it had it had doll parts, it had Let It Out, it had Saisega, and then this other two-piece band called Schizoid Man. Um, they're a cool band, and they're a lot more indie and a lot more artistic and raw than a lot of other bands. But Schizoid Man is a band that I actually wouldn't mind, interviewing at some point. Yeah, these bands are all in the hard rock metal category. The only band I think, actually, the two bands who are sort of outliers, um, would be Doll Parts. I wouldn't quite say they're hard rock. Again, I would say they go more sort of, it's a lighter feel. Doll Parts has more of a, again, there is a little bit of grunge, but it's more post grunge, it's more pop, power pop, pop rock, whatever genre you want to name it. But definitely worth checking out. And the other band that isn't quite hard rock is Electric Mama. Um, cool. I like them. Live, they're amazing. Schizoid Man is a band live. If you ever see them anywhere, check them out. I don't think there's any way that you can forget a show that you went to that had Schizoid Man. They do things live that other bands would never ever do. Yeah. Yeah, Toroko Rami, not quite hard rock. You're right. I agree with that. So yeah, with Let It Out, I had messaged them and wanted to interview them, but due to scheduling, because it was just like in and out. The crazy thing about these bands that I didn't realize is just how tight of a schedule they have sometimes. And so these bands will come day of, perform, pack up, and leave like right then. Like they won't even stay the night. Um, and that was the case when Let It Out came over and I saw them a second time. And the second time, Let It Out was just as good as the first time. Um, I can't recommend them enough. I think musically, it's really amazing stuff. Musically, it's amazing. And when you see them live, it's crazy because they're so petite. The way that I would describe them is sort of like pint-sized dynamite. Um, yeah, pocket dynamite, you could say. Really, but there's something so exciting and electric about the performance. I really loved seeing them. Um, I'm going to be going into other bands later. You can ask me questions in a little bit. We'll get into that. Um, so those are the bands that kind of carried over from last year. Another band that I never asked, well, I asked them, but it was sort of like on the spot, is a group called Vanishing. And Vanishing is a band that I don't know if most of you have ever even heard of, but these guys have been around for quite a while as well. They're based in Nagoya. As you can see, No Sleep to Nagoya. This album was released last year and they had a tour to support it. But Hades was performing at that show, so I listened to them and I thought, wow, this is really cool. Um, very raw stuff, like nothing fancy, nothing sleek, just very straight, direct, in your face, uh, punk, rock, metal. The guitarist, if you listen to him, his solos and his attitude is more metal than it is rock, but they're still a punk band. So they got quite an edge. I really love their songs. Again, it's just so just stripped of anything trying to be anything besides what it is. And I love that. I love that. I think that's how I felt about Hades. And that's how I feel about this band as well, Vanishing. So they're a three-piece. And the lead singer actually speaks English pretty well. So after the show, we had a talk. Um, and yeah, at some point, I like to reach out to them and then get something happening. So, all right. I think those are all the CDs that I have of bands that I had wanted to interview last year, and that will hopefully carry over into this year. And, God willing, everything will work out. Now let's get into the bands that, and honorarily, I guess, because I only got to interview Whiskey Dust by Zoom, I would like to interview them in person and maybe even jam with Erica a little bit. My fingers are so soft and supple and weak because I haven't played in ages. But I would love to hang out with Aya and Erica and maybe even jam a little bit if possible. If possible, that'd be cool. But yeah. Yeah, I don't see why not. I'll just stop by their store, right? Erica's always playing anyway. Mm. Okay. Now, so a few bands that I would like to interview. There are a few more. One of them is Gangire. Gangire is a band that has been around for a little while too, but Nana, who is the vocalist right now, at least right now for Fate Gear, Um, it's funny because they tout themselves as being like the most angry band in Japan. But whenever you see a photo of Nana, she's always smiling like wide and having like the time of her life. So yeah, Gangire is a band that I'm very interested in. They put out two EPs last year, Scattered, and I do forget the name of the second EP. I don't know if Russ or Ryan or one of you knows. But Gangire, like I love their music, and if you listen to their lyrics, it gets pretty deep and very critical. There's almost a rage against the machine, a rage against type of quality um, that does critique society, which I kind of find fascinating. And there's actually one song. That kind of gave me more almost Linkin Park vibes. You know, Chester Bennington with his lyrics, the sort of being angry at me because of you type of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like yeah, I think Gangere has a lyrical quality, especially because it's in English. Especially because it's in English, you can understand it. You know, it's easy. You don't have to go through translators and get all these weird mistranslations. So from what I've seen, from what I've heard, Gangare is a band that I would love to kind of put out there even more. But yeah, just to talk to. One of the things that I discovered for me is that I not only want to interview bands because I love their music, but I want to interview bands just because I think they're cool people too, if that makes sense. Um, yeah. Just if I think they're cool, you know? Um, it's like, one of the reasons why I loved Eddie Van Halen so much, and he is always and forever like my number one guitarist, is that he not only played phenomenally, but as a person, I mean, in his private life, he had his issues. But when it came to playing on stage, the joy that he exuded, the excitement, just the thrill, there was no one quite like him. Um, Oh, it was Onishi-san. Was it Nana Switch Engage they did? Was that what it was called? Um, it's kind of interesting how they throw their names into yeah, Nana Switch Engage. Who is it? Uh so Yuri from Hades did a cover band for Maximum the Hormone, and it's called Maximum the Yurimon. So it's really funny. Okay, anyway, so that's that. Now, there are newer bands that I'm interested in and that I would not mind interviewing and discovering more about. And the only one that I have a CD for, and actually Ryan did throw up an interview with them recently, um, is Dim Rays. So this is their Antithesis EP. They had one left, and I saw them last week, or was it this week? Oh, this past Monday. This past Monday. So yeah, this is Dim Rays, and it's really interesting. I was listening to their music quite a bit last night, and what I find really fascinating about Dim Rays is that I think they brand themselves as being metalcore and even melodic. But the really interesting thing is that when you listen to the times where Akane, the singer, where she's singing on the chorus or other parts, it's actually really not metal at all. At least to me, to my ears. When I listen to Akane, when she's singing and she's going very melodic and into choruses, it's much more hard rock. It's much more adult contemporary hard rock melodies, and the feel of it too. Her vocals, it's really interesting. When she goes into her growls and she's just going at it, it gets very metal. It gets very heavy. But outside of that, and they do include like a lot of electronic components to it. You know, there is rapping as well. But when it's purely melodic and she's singing, it sounds a lot more just like straight rock, which is very fascinating to me. That kind of juxtaposition. And I actually, yeah, it's really it's beautiful. Like I think she's got an amazing voice. So yeah, I think the whole album is great. I think the whole album is great. But Akane has a wonderful singing voice and an awesome growl as well. So they're a band at some point down the line. They are an Osaka band, and I did talk to them about it, but they haven't gotten back to me. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, maybe later on. It's there's time. Another band that I discovered. These are more young. These are younger bands. So and newer bands. Another band is called the Stereo Gang. They come out of Kochi, which is in Shikoku. And Shikoku is sort of the separate little island area in Japan, which is a bit southwest of Osaka or southwest of where I am. But the Stereo Gang, their sound goes more into blues-based hard rock, and they also have a bit more of power pop stuff as well. But I thought they had some pretty good stuff, and from what I saw of them live, I thought they were pretty good. Um, yeah, the Stereo Gang. There's a female lead vocalist, plays guitar as well, and then you have three other guys, but they're really young. Um, I think they're only like in their early 20s. I think the singer is only 22, if I'm not mistaken. So, but yeah, they're another band that I would love to check out, and we'll see. They did actually play in Osaka very recently, but due to my personal situation, I couldn't go out. Gungire was here too. There are a lot of other the bands kind of showed up, but again, due to my personal situation, I couldn't do that. So I would hope to. Okay, another young band that you guys have heard of. I saw them live once. Is Palaneo. Um, and Palaneo, their sound is cuter. It goes a lot more cute than I usually listen to, but they've been gaining fans, and I think they do produce good songs that are very accessible. They have songs that are very accessible. That it's poppy, but there also is some growling. There are elements of metal involved, and I'm curious to see where they go. Um, and yeah, I think because they're young, when I first saw them, I thought they do. I did feel like they needed some more miles, um, but I think when they sort of kind of gotten a little bit more worn in and have some more again just miles, I think they can become a better and a stronger band. And again, I'm curious to see where they go. So Paraneo is another band that I'm interested in. We'll see what happens with that. Another band, just because I really love Hagane, is this new band called Mana Diagram. And Mana Diagram, it has Uyu and Meito from Hagane, along with a couple of other people. And I am curious to see them. I really love Uyu's voice. And here's a little trivia, just a little quick trivia. Uyu in Korean is milk. I don't think that's why her name is what it is, but Uyu is milk in Korean. That's it. But I really love her voice. I've always loved her voice. And yeah, yeah, I would love to see them live. I would love to see what sort of energy they can bring. But with the songs that I've heard, I think it's pretty good. I think uh, as they progress and they grow, I think it can get better. But yes, absolutely, definitely, I would love to interview them at some point. Oh, you did? Okay, cool. Yeah, they have two songs. Um, Glitter. What was the other one? Man, I'm just blanking out right now. So yeah, now, real quickly, Toranoko Rami, Asterism, Bright Ear, Lerera Leria, Gangire, Vanishing, Dim Rays, The Stereo Gang, Paranail, Mana Diagram. Those are the 10. And then the very, 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 very obvious, and I don't know if it'll happen this year, is Bandmade. Yeah, Uyu does have a Dizzy Metal, right? But yeah, so SJ and I have said that we would love to interview Bandmade at some point. We kind of did start this whole channel because of them. And it would only make sense if at some point we did actually get to. Yeah. How many live shows have I seen? Last year it was over 30. Yeah, last year was over 30. Bandmate. Are they out of reach? I think it's definitely possible that it's not possible, but it never hurts to try. And that's sort of become my experience, that it doesn't hurt to try asking. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. There are bands that I spoke to, and due to the fact that I had to go through management in order to do so, I just kind of thought, okay, well, I didn't want to go through the trouble at that time, but we'll see how it goes. And what I can say is that in the 8 months, no, 10 months, sorry, my math, I'm not really Asian. In the 10 months of my doing this, of going to bands, asking them for interviews, and of hello from Poland, Mino, DMC, what's up? If only that were the case. If only that were the case. All right. So if my press pass was items I got from the bands, I have a bass pick from Naho from Dim Rays from this past Monday, and I mentioned before, but she plays with the jazz bass, a little bass, and if you watch her play live, it's really interesting, her technique. I've never seen anyone plays quite that way. I would be able to get an interview with her or them. This is Ayumi's guitar pick from Bright Ear. I would get to be able to interview them. I have Mio's drumstick from Asterism, and then I have Akane. So, hey, if that would work, shoot. How nice would that be? But yeah, it doesn't hurt to try, and you will get rejected sometimes, and then other times you won't. And I think I'm lucky. Okay, shucks. Got it. If it worked, yeah, Richard, absolutely. But yeah, here's the thing. If we had the chance to interview Bandmade, that would be just because we want to interview Bandmade, not because we necessarily want Bandmade to become a bigger band. I think they're doing fine without us, and they're okay with the trajectory that they're on. With these other bands, I would love to interview them, but it's not just because I'd want to interview them, but there is, of course, getting them out and getting them more known to people. And so I really do want to try and make an effort. And that's actually the reason why I decided that I want to move to Tokyo, is that I could be closer to these bands. Now, one of the things that I have the fortune of is that I live in Japan. I can actually talk to people directly, and I can exactly. You read my mind. Establish relationships with the bands to build relationships. And again, the best example of that is Hades. Um, Hades is a band that, as I mentioned, I am eternally grateful for, is that I was able to connect with them, to interview them, and then due to just compatibility, because sometimes you connect with the band, sometimes you don't connect quite as much. But the fact that I could connect with this band on multiple levels, building a friendship and being able to do even more things for them, offering my services, whether it was interviewing them, photographing them, just sort of promoting them on Twitter, whatever else, they were very open to it and very grateful for it. And that made me want to do more. And so even though I plan to interview more bands this year and different bands this year, in no way do I plan to sort of just, okay, well, I finished these bands, let's go on to these bands. Well, I finished with these bands, let's go on to these bands. Like, that's not what I want to do. I'm not trying to, yeah. I was thinking, huh, what kind of spicy food can I feed these people while I interview them? Um, I um, want to build relationships with these bands. Um, I want to interview them, but to build relationships with these bands, and for it not to just be an interview, for it to be that much more. So as I mentioned, not only with Hades, I think also She Clips as well. I think I promoted a lot this year or last year. And so being able to take photographs of them, being able to push them and promote them on Twitter or on Facebook and wherever else, um, there's just a lot of stuff that can be done for these bands to get them out there to more of a foreign audience. And so that's what I want to do, is to be able to not just do a one-off and then move on to the next, but to go a lot deeper. Yeah, it's interesting. If you watch my first interview with Hades, it's all thanks to them that that interview went really well, and that's the most watched interview to date. Is that it showcased who they were, and people really gravitated towards that and just loved Hades being who they were. Like, just amazing, fun, like goofy, like just really spontaneous people. Um, but the questions themselves were very basic. You know, how did you start? Uh, what do you like? What's your long term? What's your short term? And then with Saisega, the last interview I did, you guys can check it out and compare too. Compare the questions. And I actually had more questions too for Saisega. But if you take a look, with Saisega, I had a whole year thinking about things I wanted to ask them and just the things that I felt for them as a band. And so I really delved quite deeply and thought about questions that could go deeper than the typical interview. Um, So it was harder to express that in Japanese because deeper questions require some deeper Japanese. Um, but also, it was cool because you get to hear things and learn things that you probably never would. And that's something that I would definitely want to do with other bands as well. But yes, it really depends. Yeah, it depends on who the band is, how well I know them personally, specifically. And of course, I will do research. But with a lot of newer bands, introductory interviews, I think, are probably the best way to go. Okay, but that's what I want to do, is I want to interview new bands, but I also want to keep up with bands that I have interviewed, continue to build relationships with them. And for those who are willing or want to establish something more with me, with MNN, then I would love to continually support them in some way. Um, so yeah, yeah. Now, now that that's out of the way, there are questions that were thrown up here that I missed. I apologize if I wasn't listening. I'm going to give this time to you guys. Uh, let's do this first. Okay. The first question is, what other bands would you like to see interviewed? What other bands would you like to get to know? Um, so yeah, go ahead and drop some names, and I'll take note of it. And at some point, if possible, um, make something happen if bands are willing to. Again, some bands are more open than others. Some aren't, and it really depends on who they are. So, but yeah, please feel free to. Mada Seka, I don't know at all. Tone Spoon, I have heard of. Real Rail, Aoye, a sphere. What the what? Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and like. Oh, another band that Onishi-san from Blacklisted mentioned again a while back, but I was listening again recently. Um, is Fill It Up. Fill It Up. It's spelled the way it sounds. Um, check them out. Fill It Up, and tell me they're not an awesome band. The vocalist is phenomenal. Yeah. Okay. Well, Drag Down, Ryan Muir just did an interview with them, and yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to. That's definitely something that I'll consider. Um, they just dropped their newest single. Man, they get heavy. What I like about Drag Down is that it's really, really heavy, but there's like they throw in these like sort of not random, but like these very like sleek, like melodic moments, and I'm just like, oh shoot, that was nice. Um, Disconnects Hendrillion. Man, you are naming some names I've never heard of. Um, Showcasing metal bands from the 80s. I actually don't know. I didn't get into like Japanese music until more recently, so I wouldn't be the person to do that. I think maybe Russ and the Foxhole would be a great place for you guys to check out that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to do that. Mellows I have heard of. Oh, no problem. Yeah, I mean, I really like Fill It Up. Powerful vocals, powerful vocals. I was thinking of Robert Plant. SJ mentioned Janis Joplin. So, Ningen Isu, they're a bit of a bigger band. Um, yeah, huh, not sure. Okay, okay, I'll definitely take note of these and check out some of the stuff. Okay, any other bands? I am open. Um, yeah, yeah, they are a big band. Been around for a while. Paradox. Um, I did actually talk to a couple of the girls at Paradox last October, but they said I had to go through management, and I was like, there's other stuff I want to kind of get to, so I'll just put it off later. Maybe, maybe. Bad Bubble. Recently, Bad Bubble, aren't they? I know the drummer is taking a break. Um, yeah, so I'm not quite sure how that'll work. Um, I also know that Bad Bubble did an interview with old Mr. B, actually. Um, but yeah, no, I that's definitely a band. I took photos for them as well, so I'm open to that. Earthshaker, X-Ray, older stuff. Yeah, see, I've never listened to any of those bands really, so it just I don't feel like I would be the person to do that. I guess, I don't want to just interview bands, so I don't want to interview bands just for the sake of interviewing them. Like I really want to listen to their music. Um, Gina, yeah, Gina. She's and then the bassist Natsuo is actually with the band Venus, which just started recently. So Venus, they label themselves as sleaze rock. They throw on shirts like Guns N' Roses stuff. So, but yeah, okay. But yeah, no, I actually saw Bad Bubble. This was in, I think, beginning of September. This is also where I saw Palineo, where I saw Let It Out, Lydia. And there are a couple other bands that day too. I can't remember. Yeah, no, Whiskey Dust. They're absolutely, once I get to Tokyo, I want to talk to them live in person. They seem really fun and goofy. They have such a weird and interesting and just fun dynamic just between the two of them. I find them really, really entertaining just as people, and amazing performers on stage. So, okay. Yeah, it's really crazy. One of the crazy things that oh, thanks, Michael. Why? Here's a question that I ask everybody. If somebody says they liked an interview I did, I like to know why, so I can improve on whether it's asking questions, how you present things, what it is. Yeah, Little Lilith is definitely, I'm open to that. Um, Osaki Yuki, she stood out to me when she was playing drums. When I saw them in January last year, I thought, wow, she's a small girl, but man, she can just bang that thing up. Oh, for Dolls Box, that's later on in the year. I don't actually, because they've only announced. So AJ, they only announced when their shows are, but they gave no mention of tickets. As far as securing tickets based upon which band it is, if there's smaller bands, you can just reserve on Twitter, just talk to them personally. But with Gatarik and Dolls Box, and with these shows, I'm thinking you'll have to go through a vendor like Lawson's or Pia or E Plus. But in order to do that, you actually need to have like Japanese residence phone number, etc. So you may have to go through someone. Um, and I don't have the experience of like buying things through proxy, if that's possible, which I think it is. So there may be people here actually right now or elsewhere who may be able to give you information on that. Sorry, I wish I could give you more info, but I actually don't know. But if stuff comes up for that, SJ is actually a pretty big Dolls Box fan, and he said, Peter, you got to go to the show. I'll pay for your ticket. I was like, okay, don't twist my arm. Um, so yeah, yeah, it's goodness. I knew I opened Pandora's box when I was asking like what bands. Um, there's just so many, and there's too many really. Um, goodness. Yeah. Ah, gotcha. That's cool, Mike. Um, now the interesting thing, not the interesting thing. The thing is with bands that I would like to interview, I kind of want to interview besides, like Bandmate and maybe even Bright Ear or Asterism. I like the idea of interviewing smaller, more indie rock, indie metal bands that are here in Japan. That appeals to me more than sort of going after like bigger names. Um, but having said that, if it is possible, I wouldn't mind at some point interviewing some bigger names. Um, yeah. Yeah. Hanabiye is, hmm. They have interviewed with a lot of smaller bands, a lot of smaller interviews or channels. So we'll have to see. I guess I can try and ask. Um, oh, okay, Cage, thank you so much. Bye. Ah, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. Yes. You gotta love those Japanese artists. Bye, KH. Thank you so much for always supporting. Um, that is true. With bigger names in Japan, but at least the bigger names in Japan are still bigger in Japan than the smaller names in Japan. uh, oh wow, okay, yeah, AJ, I'll see what I can do if news comes up. Okay, I'm gonna throw this out there. You can hate me all you want, and you can unsubscribe if you want to. I like Taylor Swift. I think she's cool. Um, I mentioned in a Facebook post, of course, her music does not appeal to more middle-aged and up-aged men, but she's super talented, is super smart, super independent, and I respect that. So, um, but yeah, as far as other bands, yeah, I think my goal will try to be the smaller bands. To be honest, that is easier. Once I am in Tokyo, though, I'm not sure about the frequency. Like last year, I only got through 7 bands, right? Um, and a lot of that was also due to, again, like schedule conflict. But if I'm in Tokyo and I'm able to, and if I can reach out and if I can output this much material for bands, I mean, that would be awesome. I would love to. Um, if I could make this my full-time job where I could focus only on this, just go to bands, interview bands, do behind the scenes stuff with them, do these random videos with them, playing games with them, all that kind of stuff, that would be awesome. I would love to do that. But I do have to secure a legitimate job that will pay for all my bills. And then in addition with the extra time, then I'll be able to, do these things. So I think I'll shoot for 10 new bands as well as supporting some smaller bands, or supporting smaller bands that I supported last year. Um, but again, we'll see how everything plays out. It'll be easier because Bandmade doesn't have that packed of a schedule. Um, and so I don't think that I'll be going to as many Bandmade shows as I did last year. I went in excess of three, I think like at least 10 to 12 Bandmade shows last year. But with that not happening, I don't think, and even then, I don't know if I'll be attending as many shows as I did last year. It'll give me more room to, yeah, try to get out there and go to other bands as well. So, I am, again, I'm really excited to promote more of these bands and to get these bands even bigger. I really would love to, um, man, yeah, I would, okay, I'll say this, and this is something that actually, SGBC, Brutality Films, they're trying to do a festival this year in October in Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. Russ or Ooby Dooby, you guys can like drop the info. But they're trying to get bands like Whiskey Dust, Hades, and I think even Bloodywood they actually talked to as well, right? So they're trying to get other bands out there. Um, I would love to see a group of bands go out to the States, but that requires funding. I'm sure people back home I can talk to, they can secure a venue, they can take care of all that stuff, but it's really the funding. But if enough people were willing to fund for a sort of a mini festival of a few bands, I mean, that would be awesome. Um, oh, okay, cool. Oh yeah, so someone did mention Sirius. Yeah. Um, so Sirius, Empress, and sort of their crown jewel, Full Moon. Those three are under zillion mode. Um, and I do have the business card. I guess if I want to interview, I do have to reach out, which of course I can do at some point. So they're definitely an option. Paradox, I didn't get information about that. Of course, I can reach out to them via, email as well. So um, we'll see. I mean, I want to reach out to bands who are more willing and it's more easily available to interview, so I don't have to kind of go through channels. That makes it easier. But at some point, if I can just interview, um, via the emails and OKs and confirmation, that'd be great as well. Um, yeah, yeah. I heard a little bit. Hmm. Of is it Jungfrau? Probably not Jung, right? It's like Carl Jung, Jungfrau, German or Austrian or something. Yeah, the song's not bad. The new Paradox video. They just dropped Singularity a couple of days ago, I think. You guys can check that out too. But yeah, I'd be interested to see what else. Oh, is it Jungfrau? I really don't know. Alexander, I did mention Palaneo as a band that might be down to interview. Um, yeah. So let's see. Now, here's a question I want to ask you guys, and please, again, feel free to, okay, please feel free to throw in some suggestions. I did mention I want to not just interview them, but do different things with them. But I'm curious, what kind of videos would be interesting to see of these different bands? Um, like if bands are willing to, like I think Hades would be willing to, like if I went to say a rehearsal and did some like behind the scenes of them rehearsing, would you guys be open to that kind of stuff? Like what other stuff would you like to see? I'm curious. Um, there's a lot of different types of interviews and videos with like celebrities. Of course, there's like the Jimmy Fallon, it's all just games, which can be fun at times, but I wouldn't say always. Oh, rig rundown. Okay. Um, going over the stuff with them. Okay. Full band karaoke session. Yeah, Asterism did that, right? Asterism did a live stream on Instagram with um yeah, it was the three of them. They did Don't Look Back in Anger. I think they did some Aussie. Okay. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, rehearsals behind the scenes. What else? Like I had an idea, and this was something that didn't quite work out due to scheduling, but I had wanted to do English time with Sheglapes. So I would have gotten the members together, and we would just sit down and record me teaching them English, or maybe them teaching me Japanese too. That would have been fun. So, I mean, whatever bands, if they're willing to, and I do think that bands can be known um, and, appreciated not just for the music that they play, but for just, their personalities as well. Um, okay, so that's a big thing, doing rehearsal behind the scenes stuff. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things you can do in a video format. Um, yeah, a video format allows itself pretty much to your imagination, right? In terms of what you want to do just creatively. and reaching out to these other bands. So it would be really cool. Oh, here's something that I would love to do. Now, here's something that I would love to do. I forgot to mention this, is I would love to get members of different bands and have them ask each other questions. And I think Variety on YouTube, they do this. They have different celebrities one-on-one talk to each other and ask questions. So I would love to have, for example, someone like maybe Regan, from Saiseiga, sitting down with Arisa from Doll Parts, and as singers, their take on things and their perspective of things. Um, Possibly guitarist, the guitarist from here, from there, talk together and ask each other questions. I think that would be a really interesting thing to do because these bands in Japan, I mean, they're performing a lot of shows together all the time. And so I'm really curious what sort of perspective and philosophy maybe they have. Um, I think that would be fascinating to do. What do you guys think? Having a band on band sort of interview. Yeah, a roundtable discussion. I don't know if I could get that many bands because they're also busy doing their own thing with their own activities, but that would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. Definitely a lot of different ideas that they could do. Hmm. Hmm. I do. So Russ mentioned that there's a language barrier that I can bridge the gap with. My bridge has weakened a lot. I haven't spoken Japanese in a bit, and so it takes a lot of effort to remember sometimes. Um, I will have to work on that. And I do encourage you guys to. Oh, let me also mention that if any of you are interested in learning Japanese as well, I am willing to give lessons. I'll throw up a more official advertising for that, a more official post or video for that later on. But to help with supporting myself financially, but also to help people who are interested in, yeah, getting closer to Japanese with music and with bands and whatever else. I am definitely open to, yeah, I'm definitely open to teaching Japanese, and then 日本の方、英語も大丈夫です。英語のレッスンもします。And then for those of you who are into like K-pop, and I know Rolling Quartz and whoever else is out there, 한국말도 할 수 있습니다. 그래서 한국어를 배우고 싶으면 연락 좀 하세요. So English, Japanese, or Korean, I'm willing to teach. For any of you who are interested, if you're interested, you can just comment below, and then I'll give you guys my email address, and you guys can reach out to me. So that's out there. Yeah, it's interesting because you do have musicians who are very technical, um, fans who are musicians who really love the technical aspects. Um, but then yeah, you definitely have the people who don't want that much detail. They want to know like stories and stuff too. So only the bad words. Here's a very interesting thing about Japanese is that they really don't have bad words. It's very few. Now, if you want to learn Korean has some of the worst words ever. Korean, one of the differences, if you guys do not know, that I've been aware of for a while, Koreans are generally known as more passionate, hard on sleeve people. And if you've ever seen a Korean drama and all that yelling and screaming and crying, that's very on brand for Koreans. When I lived in Korea, there are a lot of scenes I saw play out in real life, and I thought, are you kidding me? Is this really happening in front of me? And on the other hand, you have Japanese who are more reserved. They kind of keep their emotions more to themselves. So, yeah. Um, would my lessons be as fun as Konami's? They would be. It could be. Definitely not as cute. Definitely not as cute, but I definitely don't mind that. Yeah, who is it? Chaeyoung from Rolling Quartz definitely speaks English well, and Korea in general. They really kind of like hammer in English, English, English. If you look at K-pop artists, they take English lessons, they take Japanese lessons because is hellbent. Korea is hellbent on making sure that they are able to speak languages and that if they want to become a global phenomenon, that they prepare for that. And kudos to Korea for that. It definitely takes its toll mentally, I think physically and emotionally, but that is what they do. So Korean bands, Korean groups generally speak English better because there's like such a focus on that. Yeah, Russ, totally. I don't know how much I could help you out with. I think your Japanese is pretty good, isn't it? But we'll talk. We'll talk about that. Kevin, yes, I'm open to the Japanese and Korean, and we'll get down with that as well. Um, English definitely has plenty of bad words. If anybody wants to learn some bad words in English, I can do that too. um, Oh, so with Psyche throwing the F-bomb and a lot of other bands, now here's the really interesting phenomena that occurs. Um, the really interesting phenomena that occurs for people in a different country hearing languages like the F word, um, is that because you didn't grow up and you don't feel how much of an impact or effect that word has, it's just another word. It's just another word you're just throwing out there because it's not in your language. And so, I remember when I was a kid and I was just throwing out like all these words in Spanish and it meant nothing to me because, I didn't grow up in that culture, in that language. Well, I kind of did grow up in the Spanish language because there were a lot of Mexicans around me, but other than that, it didn't mean that much. And I think with that kind of word too, you know, when you see how the F word is used, it's cool to make things more exciting or to like, give it a bigger, more of a hit. Korean, when it comes to the writing, Korean is known to be the easiest writing system. And that is what King Sejong intended for it to be. So with Korean, the writing language, it is absolutely much easier. Japanese incorporates hiragana, katakana, and then kanji, which is, it's from China. Um, Korean words are based in some kanji, but they don't use the actual character. They just write it out. But Korean grammar and Japanese grammar is very similar. Not exactly the same, but it's very similar. Yeah, K-pop is global because of that. K-pop went global because of the intent to go global. Like they had a mission to, like everything they do, it's so precisely thought out and calculated and like all the mathematics of artistry manufactured, to be honest. But then you do have, not that I listen to BTS, and I actually don't, I know like a couple of Blackpink songs, but um, when you get the right type of producers, the right artists and personalities, then yeah, things can happen. Um, Japanese is tough. Japanese is tough. I'm good with learning the Spanish bad words. That's okay. Hey, yeah, if you know English, if you know English, that's great. If you know Korean, well, yeah, if you know English, that's great. But if you know Korean, that's great too. Again, writing is easy. It's just pronunciation. I will say that a lot of people attempt to speak Korean, and it's generally the pronunciation where people are weakest. So it's that speaking the pronunciation part that's the toughest. 씁니다 is the more formal way of saying it. It's like suru versus shimasu. right? Shimashita. Um, so sumida is just, again, it's more honorific. Oh, okay. Onishi-san, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Glad to have had you. Um, I hope whatever show you go see tonight is awesome. Um, who are you watching, if you can share before you go, unless you've left? Um, but yeah, thank you for joining. Yeah, Onishi-san, Yushi-san is so cool. Is so cool. One of the most laid back and just friendly people, especially like taking care of all these bands and promoting them. Really good stuff. Um, very good guy, and I'll definitely try to stay connected to him. I think, yeah, we've definitely helped each other out a lot. It's really cool. Um, with Japanese and with Spanish, it's interesting because when I was learning Japanese and even now, if I try to think of a word or if I try to speak in Spanish, Japanese words pop out, and that's really interesting. Um, yeah. Oh, cool. I would love to see that. Russ, can you drop down the actual times and the link so that people can, yeah, yeah, that'd be great. So the dates and the time and then the link, and that'll help. Now with Korean, very quickly, I don't know, we're veering off a little bit, but for example, with Korean, and you can try to say this with me. There's ka, and there's ga, and the ga. If you can't put the link in the chat, just put it in the comment section. Ga. Um, there's a difference. There's pa, and ba. There's cha, and ja. So you'll see like Korean characters like put together, and phonetically, it's really hard to pronounce because it's like it's right back here, and it has to tighten and like punch it out really quickly. Ja, ba, ga, and that's something that a majority of people cannot do. So that's something that we can definitely go over. Yeah, I think Spanish and Japanese are similar. And so Japanese people can probably speak Spanish better than English speakers, and vice versa. Like the R sound in Japanese, right? Arigato. The rolling R. But then, most English speakers will be like, oh, arigato. Arigato gozaimasu. Gozaimasu. It's like it's hard to get certain things out. Yeah, things like that. But yeah, okay. So I think for the most part we covered everything that we wanted to in terms of the bands. I'm really, really grateful for the bands who helped me out last year to interview them, and for the people who helped me to get those interviews. Like for example, Russ helped me with Whiskey Dust and also with Leopard Death. Really appreciated that. And for Doll Parts, a couple of people reached out. Yeah, but I think I contacted directly. Ultimately, it came back to me, but people did push. So I was really grateful for people who were pushing for certain bands to be interviewed. And if you do find that there's a band out there that you think is really phenomenal, and maybe even a newer band or sort of a band that's lesser known, um, I'm happy to. Again, I'm more eager to promote smaller bands than more well-known bands. Um, just just a heart thing. Um, so for those bands and for last year, that was really awesome, and I'm excited for that. There will be a short talk interview with Electric Mama that will be coming up. I still have it, and it's been months, and I feel really bad, but just things kind of happened. But yeah, for this year, it's really out there. There's a lot of good stuff that can happen. I don't know what exactly, but I have connected with and I have spoken to some of these bands previously, so that should help to get and secure an interview with them for this year. But as well as that, I hope to do other things, and I hope that MNN will not only be a place where you guys will get your bandmate news, which we're also happy to do, and at some point to have an interview with the pigeon herself. But um, until then, and even after then, and during then, we really do want to try to promote some of these smaller bands, take advantage of the fact that I am here and that I am able to speak with these bands. So, oh, okay, cool, very cool. I'm glad to hear. Nice. Oh, that's awesome to hear. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, is there anything else that you guys want me to go over? The live stream was really just about, these new bands, but again, I'm happy to answer any other questions or things that I kind of missed in the uh yeah, that is interesting to not only interview Mana Diagram but also interview Hagan. It's the two of them. Huh. Um, I think that'll take a little bit of like thought and sort of what types of questions to ask, because I definitely don't want to step on any toes or kind of like like kind of cross any lines, but how to do an interview and ask questions that don't kind of offend. That is interesting though. That would be an interesting thing to do. Um, yeah, yeah. But that's something to consider. Okay, Gordon, for the bands that you guys have suggested, if you guys can not just give a band name, if you guys can give a song as well. And can you guys do this? Because I will close this up pretty soon. But can you guys actually put down in the comment section, put down, if you have a band, not just the band, if you can have an album or a song, because that makes a difference. Like you can say, Iron Maiden, which album though? You can say Van Halen, which album, which song? Because you know how it works. We all love certain bands, but some songs just don't work. I will no. I was gonna name a song, but I don't think I'll do that. Yeah. Please do that, and again, I will try to do what I can. There is only so much that I can do, but I will try my best. And I do hope you guys continue to really support these smaller bands and support the people who support these smaller bands. So again, Russ Henry with the Foxhole, if you guys can really go and watch their show and support them. Ryan Meir has been doing an amazing job of getting a lot of smaller bands out there with his interviews as well. You guys have Alan from Dichotic. You have the Gaijin guys. There's Wave Potter. There's Champ. There's, old Mr. B. There's Yoshi. There's a lot of people out there. So anything to get these bands out there, right? Okay, guys, thank you so much. This went on, yeah, longer than I expected, but I'm very glad that you guys all hung out for as long as you did. Thank you so much for supporting. And again, if you guys are interested in learning Japanese, Korean, or Nihon no kata, Eigo mo, Eigo no lesson mo shimasu. Dekimasu. So happy to do that. Going on 100. We'll finish it up at 100 minutes. So yeah, I really appreciate it, you guys. With that, don't forget to help support our channel. There is a Patreon, MNN Tokyo Plus, just to help out financially and to get some more exclusive content. I do have this huge archive of old bandmate photos that I'm slowly posting up. I have photos of other bands, videos, like all that stuff. So, okay. All right, guys. I am going to hang out just for a little bit because I am 15 seconds away from 100 minutes. And I wanna try to get this as exact as possible. Kind of like at the gas station, right? With the gas? Okay, I've got 5 seconds. So 5, 4, 3, drag down. You got it. 1. Bye, guys.